This time I'll call the October board meeting to order. Board members, if you would, please rise for our invocation. Mr. Rogers, would you lead the board in our prayer, please?
Most kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to have the privilege to be here tonight. So grateful to have the privilege to serve on this board, to serve and try to do the best things that we can for the education of these children. Thank you for these children present. Thank you for the children of our schools. And Lord, we thank you for the families, this great community we have. We pray, Lord, for their safety and their guidance. I know there's so many different trying times in this world today, Lord, but through your guidance, with our trust in you, we can do the best things possible and help keep our children the safest as we can and help them learn to the best of their abilities so that they can be successful. We pray that this board makes those decisions that are in the best effort to help educate the children and keep our staff equipped with the needs they have and they can have to offer the best education possible. God and direct us in all these things that we do. We'll give you the praise and the glory for it all. Amen.
Please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We've got several announcements that need to be made. Board members, I know we've been moving a lot of meetings around, but I would like to ask that we move the November board meeting from Monday night to Thursday night to accommodate our traveling superintendent and staff that are going to celebrate the fact that Riverbend Elementary School is a National Blue Ribbon School. They will be traveling during that time frame, and we're actually meeting a week early due to the fact that we have our annual conference, which is the next announcement I have is the North Carolina School Board Association annual conference will be held November 13th through the 15th in Greensboro, North Carolina. So please put that on your calendars as well. But again, congratulations on the Riverbend recognition. To my knowledge, this is the second time that it's happened, and it's a huge honor. And Dr. Garrett, Dr. Nolte, please let the staff and all at Riverbend know that we appreciate that accomplishment. It's definitely worthy of saying thank you. Any other agenda adjustments that we need to make tonight? Anything from Building and Grounds that need to be added, or? And we do have finance. Okay. Do you have something from Building and Grounds?
We're good tonight this time.
All right. We have a few items one item from finance. Okay. We'll add it during the regular time frame for the monthly financial reports from Mr. Henson and his committee. Anyone else have any announcements or adjustments? Okay. Now we'll recognize Mr. Ron Moss to introduce some special guests we have with us tonight.
Chairman Francis, members of the board, Dr. Garrett, Dr. Nolte, it is my pleasure to introduce Sherry Arrington, principal at Junaluska Elementary School. I see she's here tonight with a number of her staff and students, and I'm sure we are going to learn tonight just why Junaluska is a special place dedicated to student success. Sherry.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Garrett, Dr. Nolte, and guests and parents, we're delighted to be here this evening and have a chance to share something that's happened at our school over the past 2.5 years that has been very exciting to us. You may have read about it in the Mountaineer earlier this month, but it began in March of 2015 and I received a phone call from a lady in Wisconsin, and she said that her group, which is the Church of the Brethren, were coming to Lake Junaluska Assembly for a Southeastern Conference, and they would be coming in September of 2015. And when they came, they wanted to talk about an international project they had done, a national project, and they wanted to do a local project. And because we were the school closest to the assembly, they wanted to do something for our school. So they asked all their members that were traveling from all over southeastern United States to bring a book that our children could take home with them. So in that September, they met at the assembly, and I was invited to go down and meet them. And they brought us over 800 books that we could take back to school, and we gave every child 1 or 2 books to take home. Now, they asked me to speak just a little bit about the school, and I told them that we were working on trying to get independent reading books for our classrooms. And I said, we're only 2.5 miles down the road, why don't you come see us? And about 2 days later, there was a family that was in that audience, and Jim and Libby. And Libby was a retired educator, and they came by to see us. And she said, you know, I'm from Michigan, and they have huge Scholastic book warehouse sales in Michigan, and I'm asked to help with that. And I can be either paid with books or money. And I always give the books to my family members, but we're going to start giving the books to your school. So that started a relationship, and the children started communicating back and forth, and we'd send them packages of goodies. And then Miss Libby and Jim said, you know what, if you'll pay the postage, we're going to start buying books for your school. And Libby and Jim purchased, in 2 years, over 3,000 books for our school.
Holy cow.
And I'm talking about brand new student books, and Miss Libby had read most of them. Now, that story goes on till this September 2017. It was time for the group to come back. And so they came back, brought us 1,200 more books. But later in the presentation, we're going to tell you about them coming to our campus. The whole group, not the whole group, but about 45 members came to our school that day. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But we've just been really excited because overall, we've received about 5,000 brand new books in our school. So these ladies and gentlemen are very special here today because they're 5th graders, but they were selected by their 4th grade teachers because out of all those books last year, they were avid readers. And so I'm going to let them share a little bit about their book. Miss Delben is, if you remember last year, we were able to get that half of a assistant principal, which we so love. So Miss Thompson's half assistant principal. She's lead teacher of grades 3 through 5. And Miss Delben is lead teacher of grades K through 2 and Title I. So, Meredith, we'll start with you.
My name is Meredith Bradshaw. I read Wish by Barbara O'Connor, and I loved it because it was full of adventure.
Good job.
My name is Abby Earwood. I read Gabriella by Teresa Harris, and my favorite part is when she learned a new dance that inspired the whole community to save her dance.
Wow.
My name is Cameron Westmoreland, and I read Percy Jackson and Sea of Monsters, and the author is Rick Riordan, and I like it so much because it's full of adventure and a lot of friendship.
Very good.
My name is Julius Alvin. My book is The Big Dark, written by Ron Van Rick. I like this book because it's full of adventure and exciting events, and yeah.
Good enough.
My name is Hunter Silverby. I picked Percy Jackson by Rick Riordan, and I liked it because there's twists and turns and a lot of adventure.
My name is Mary Catherine Gilbert, and I chose The Key to Extraordinary by Natalie Wood because I liked it so much that I actually read another book that I don't like that. My name is Sierra Sellers. I read Sojourner Truth by Yona McDonough, and I like this book because I like to learn about history, and it's about slavery. So.
Very good.
Excellent job, boys and girls. Yeah. And now Miss Marlene Creary, she is a Title I teacher at their school, and she's going to talk to you a little bit. She coordinated the day that the big coach van pulled up in front of the school and brought 50 members over to our school.
It was an exciting day at Junaluska. It was a little hard to plan because we didn't know exactly how many readers we were going to have. When they meet at the Lake Junaluska Assembly, they can sign up for different projects. So the people actually signed up to read the night before the event. So what I did was I kind of color-coded the event. So I made a template. And so I basically started with the time frames and I color-coded by grade. And so then it made it much easier once I had names to plug them in. And originally we thought that I probably wouldn't have names. But for example, I paired 4th and 1st grade. So I planned on 2 readers per grade. And so I knew that I would have 2 readers in 4th grade for the first session. And then for the second session, I would have 2 readers, those same 2 readers going to 1st grade. So it'd be easy to manage. And then I did the same for 3rd and 2nd. And then 5th was a little different because kindergarten didn't participate because this event was the day after Labor Day and our kindergarten students had only been in school like 3 days because they transition in and it's really hard for them to sit for 30 minutes. So the readers that were in 5th grade then either went to a 1st or 2nd grade. So some of those classrooms in the lower grades ended up with the opportunity to have 3 or more readers. So after I made my template and color-coded it, then I thought about escorts. Who was going to deliver these readers to the classrooms they needed to go to? So I looked at the staff that we had that would be available, not classroom teachers, but like my specialists. We had a lot of student interns. And so then I placed them with a rough draft. And then I finally made a final copy that I thought would be the final. And so I had cards with the escort's name, so like this was mine, and then behind it I had reader 1 and the teacher's name. So that way if we didn't have names, the escort would have the cards and they would just take a couple of readers and they knew where to go. But Miss Libby, the morning of the event, sent me the names of all the readers. So I very quickly put them in the final template so I would know where everyone was going when they arrived. And then Miss Delben was an awesome helper, so she went back on the cards that we had, and where it said Reader 1, she put the names in for me. And then it was easy to move the cards around. And then each teacher was given like general instructions for the day, so they knew when they were to go to the gym, how they were supposed to enter and exit. So we had grades 1 and 2 enter and exit through the door closest to the cafeteria for traffic flow. And then we had 3, 4, and 5 enter the gym door next to the custodial office. And then we also asked the kids to make cards or posters in their classroom. And so when readers came, they had a card or a poster to give to the reader. And then Miss Libby did a big event in the gym. And so we had 2 sessions for that, a session for grades 1 and 2, and then a session for 3, 4, and 5. And she brought her guitar and she sang songs, and she put our librarian's name in one of the songs, and so the children got to enjoy time with her. So we put a basket in the gym for her, so if kids wanted to give cards to her also, since she kind of spearheaded everything, then there were cards for her. And then after the event, we asked all the readers to go to our media center, and our PTA helped us by getting refreshments ready for them. So we had refreshments, and we had time after school to sit and talk with them and just talk about where they came from and what they did. And then we gave them a little thank you note with a mint attached that said, "Thank you for coming and reading to us. It meant a lot to us, Junaluska Elementary School." And so that was our big event, and all of the kids loved it. Even after school, when we were cleaning up, some of the students in the after-school program were like, "Hey, there's Miss Libby," as they were fixing to get on the bus to leave. So it was a great day for our school.
Thank you, Marlene. Since that time, Miss Libby has sent me an email, and probably she's contacted all her cousins and nieces and everybody. There's probably 25. and they're not going to do presents this year at Christmas. They're going to all buy books for us
Holy cow.
for our second grade. So, at this time, I'm going to let Mr. Hyde, he is our media coordinator, and he has a little video to show you little activities of that day when they came to visit us. And we just appreciate, again, you letting us come and share this excitement with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much for coming and sharing your school with us this evening. And you may have to get a tractor trailer rig to haul all those books around if you ever decide.
Expand the library.
Expand the library. Might be a building project. Congratulations on that, Junaluska Elementary School, and thank you for sharing the books that you've read. And keep the interest in reading, because it'll help you so much more in your education as you continue through school to read on a regular basis. It makes a big difference in growing your minds. Anyone else like to say anything? Or we good?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say thank you for a very superb job. And gracious thanks goes out to this group that's providing these books for our children. That's just showing the dedication to the education of these kids. And thank you so much. And guys, you did a great job.
Thank you for coming. Next on our agenda, we have Miss Jenny Wood Valliere.
Chairman Francis, members of the board, Dr. Garrett, and Dr. Nolte, it's my pleasure tonight to recognize the 2017-2018 Teacher Assistants of the Year. Without these employees, our schools would be, they do so much for the teachers, and they're dedicated and commitment to the schools and to the classrooms and to the kids that they teach. So they are definitely worthy of this recognition. And I'm going to read just the certificate of recognition that's the same for every one of them. It says, the Haywood County Board of Education acknowledges and extends sincere congratulations on your selection as Teacher Assistant of the Year. So at Bethel Elementary, we have Tessa Rice. If you'll just stay up here, because we'll get a group picture at the end. Thank you. From Clyde Elementary, Elma Amsler. From Hazelwood Elementary, Diane Bruce. I don't think she was able to come tonight. From Jonathan Valley, Marilyn Waldron. From Junaluska, Cindy Warren. From Meadowbrook, Susan Ramirez. And from North Canton, Colleen Rathbone. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for everything that you do every day. If you'll just come right up here, we'll get a group picture.
You're the Flash.
I've seen Dr. Bill get up things like that, oh, he's talking, unbelievable.
Next, we have Dr. Nolte with a presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Garrett, staff, and guests. Mr. Kirkpatrick was trying to get me to step up, but I wanted to be called on. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try to do this with the new big screens rather than a bunch of papers in front of me. But it is the time of year where we celebrate our academic success from the previous year with a lot of data. And we also take a critical look at what we can do to get better. So the way I've organized this is to look at our big ones first, our high schools, and then we'll take a look at middle schools and then the 8 elementary schools. And then I have some general information about the district and some overall highlights, and then the last document there, all on the Moodle that you can access, is what we have created to look at to get better. So Brooke, if you would open the 912 sort. This is, thank you for making that larger. I've gone through in the past and highlighted charter schools. I didn't get that done on every file, but this is a sort of the 366 traditional 9th through 12th grade schools in North Carolina. And so if you'll just scroll down just a page or two, you'll find our 2 schools there fairly close together. All right, okay. There is Pisgah in the top quartile in the state, outperforming 76% of the other 9-12 schools in the state. This is based upon their end-of-course test scores. And then just a little bit further down, we have Tuscola at the 38th percentile, outperforming over 60%, 62% of the other 9 through 12 schools, 300 and so 9 through 12 schools in the state. And just for emphasis purposes, if you just scroll through there slowly, just sort of, again, we always want to warn people we're not putting this up here so we can talk about so-and-so who's at the bottom, but just to give you the visual picture of all of the other traditional high schools in the state, that our 2 comprehensive 1,000-student high schools outperformed. There's a bunch of them. Okay, Brooke, if you'll look at the next file, we know that one of the keys to entering college is an ACT score or an SAT score. We use ACT because the state required all of our juniors to take that a few years ago. And you can't get into Haywood Community College without a solid ACT score or similar score, AccuPlacer or SAT or something like that. So of the 115 districts, our ACT percentage composite was 12th. So that's a very good indication of our students and their access to college and universities beyond the school. And you can scroll down again, but you get the picture. We're there at 18th, and then there's nearly 100 lower than us, 96 or 97 lower than us. Our, go ahead and click on that EOC file. We're on that first page. If you just scroll down right there. We have this notion that we have outstanding elementaries and middle schools, and sometimes we think our high schools don't do so well. So I did this sort. This is a sort of all of the end-of-course tests that are taken at high schools. That includes things like biology, Math 1, and English for all 115 school districts. And so if you take all of the end-of-course tests taken in Haywood County schools and you take that number and rank it across 115 school districts, we're 18th, or in the top, just outside the top 15% for high school end-of-course test, which is a pretty good measure. And I put that one in there this year because we don't usually think of it that way. I highlighted those other districts in our region. Those are people that we look at for advice and call on and ask about things. And again, you can scroll through again, not for purposes of putting anyone else down, but just to see how well our students in Haywood County Schools did with those end-of-course tests. I have some individual highlights at grade levels in just a moment. And then 6 through 8, if you'll scroll down, have our folks highlighted. Bethel Elementary pops up there in the top 17%, outperforming well over 80% of the other 414 6-8 schools in the state. That's a pretty good number. And then if you'll scroll down a little further, you'll see our other two schools pretty close together. There's, I think there's Canton and actually at 28%, and Waynesville's actually a little bit above that one. You may have skipped it on a, there you go, on a page split there.
There it is. There.
So all of those in the top tier in the state, Waynesville Middle in the top quartile, Canton Middle well inside the top third, well inside the top 30% of 414 6-8 schools in the state. So very solid performance. I'll show you some individual scores from the middle schools in just a second, as well as the early college. You can go to the next file. If you'll look at the 6-8 file, K5 file, sorry, we just looked at 6-8. This is a sort of 824 kindergarten through 5th grade or pre-K through 5th grade schools in North Carolina. I put the note out to the side. Usually there are some charters in that sort, but there actually weren't this year, which means they were K4 or K8 or something like that. Riverbend was third, or in the top 1%. They've been first 2 or 3 times. And then if you'll scroll down just a little bit, you'll see Jonathan Valley, top 7%, Bethel, and just stop right there for a minute, Brooke. Bethel and Junaluska in the top 9%. Now, I want you to just think about this for a second. I'm doing this because I know we have a TV audience, too. We have 8 elementary schools. 4 of those are in the top 10% in the state. Among 800 and whatever the number was, 824 K5 or pre-K5 Title I schools. And then if you'll scroll not too much further, we have our other 4. There's Clyde in the top 12%. North Canton, top 19. Meadowbrook 22nd percentile, and Hazelwood top 27th percentile. So outperforming all of our schools, outperforming somewhere between 99% of the other schools and almost 80% of the other schools in the state. Pretty impressive. And just scroll down through there for visual effects. Again, I don't want anyone to look at those names, but just to give you the visual, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, the visual performance of our schools and the ones that they outperformed in the state. Literally hundreds. Maybe not scroll through all of them. It's a long list. Okay.
31 pages.
Yeah, 31 pages. We're on 21 of 31. Okay. And if we can just go back to the Moodle page. This is the LEA rank. This is something that we released pretty quickly to the newspaper. There was some movement around in the top 10%. We saw a number of districts who had performed really well for a long time not do as well. We think that is attributed to the harder questions on the test. We still haven't teased that out. We talked to the principals about that last Wednesday with some of our deeper data, but there we are again, and pleased to be there. You can probably go to the next file. And then here's some overall academic highlights. Some of this you heard me just say, but a lot of times, like Ms. Trantham, Belinda has asked me to meet with the Title I Parent Advisory group in a couple weeks. And we give groups like this highlight sheet, so it's there for you. You can print it off the Moodle just to give some highlights of some of our better performance areas. I've already talked about half our elementaries in the top 10% and the others doing really well. The second bullet is about our middle school performance that I just talked about. The third bullet is about our high schools doing well among 366 traditional 9 through 12 schools in the state. The one I didn't talk about earlier was there are 70 schools in the state. There are actually more early colleges than that, but there are 70 schools in the state that have grades 9 through 13. Our early college ranked 15th out of that for students passing assessments, but the better performance there that is really impressive to most of us, there's a measure called the Career and College Readiness Measure, and for those of you who have parents, those are students that just make 4s and 5s, no 3s, and they were 4th in the state on that measure, which is very, very cool. And then under 5, I already mentioned that we were 12th on the ACT and in the 11th or in the top 10% on the overall performance composite, and C 18th on all the high school tests. But here's some other things that I thought were important to mention because they were really balanced and they ranged from 3rd grade to 8th grade. So we were 6th or in the top 5% in 3rd grade math out of 115 districts. 2nd or in the top 2% in 4th grade math. Our children can add and subtract. They really can. 7th or in the top 6% in 4th grade reading. And 8th or in the top 7% in 8th grade reading. 5th or in the top 4% in 8th grade science. So the thing that, as the person who really tries to coordinate a lot of the curriculum instruction, the thing about this report that really makes me happy is success at every grade level, success across subject areas, and success across different kinds of tests, the traditional end of grade, end of course, ACT. So we have a lot of people doing the things that Junaluska described earlier and at a lot of levels. And then the last file you've seen before, it's a little different. We have done what we've called a gap analysis. If you can make that a little bigger, Brooke, thank you, so I can see it. This is a gap analysis. This is where we start to talk to schools about what they can work on. And for the first time ever, I put some other schools on the bottom. I want to ask for forgiveness on that up front, but we have been forced into a competitive educational environment by the state of North Carolina. And so when I get down to the bottom, I'll explain that to you. But going across the top in yellow are the 22 measures that North Carolina uses to give our schools grades. You probably remember from the press release, again, one of the very few school districts in the state with no D's, no F's, mainly B's and C's, and then a few A's. But those are all the measures: ACT, work keys, math rigor, the graduation rate, the performance composite, and then that college measure, that PCCCR, Math 1 biology, English 2, 3rd through 8th math, 3rd through 8th reading, and then 5th grade science and 8th grade science. All the green ones are above the state average, and so this gives schools an opportunity to go back at those little white cells and do some analysis and go, you know, did I have new teachers there? Did we change instructional materials? Did we stop doing something that we had done before? At the bottom, and there's a lot of work that goes beyond what I'm telling you to work on those little white squares, those gap squares. At the bottom, we have the local charter, brick and mortar charter, and you can see that their performance composite was lower than all 8 elementaries and all 3 middle schools. And I never thought I would stand up here and talk about that, but we're in that competitive market, and I think it's fair for people to know that. And then the North Carolina Connections Academy is an online school provided by the state of North Carolina through your tax dollars that students can access from home. And then the North Carolina Virtual Academy is another online school paid by your tax dollars and my tax dollars that students in Haywood County can access at home. And you can see that those performance composites are really low. So anyway, I want to share this report with you tonight. I just want to thank Dr. Garrett, teachers, principals, CNI staff, people that we don't know from other states who give us books and awards. It does take a lot of people to do things well, and we have a lot of people working really hard. So thank you for letting me share this, and I'll try to entertain any questions if you have them.
I just have one comment, and that's wow. Congratulations to everyone. I know it's a group effort from the parents to the staff to teachers, everyone, administration on up, support staff. You know, it's almost, you can't say anything. I'm without words. It's unbelievable how good we've done it. I just appreciate, I know everybody's bought in.
Yep.
And congratulations.
There are a lot of people who work at this, and I can remember Dr. Garrett and I a little over a year ago were almost in tears. There might have been a tear when we moved to the top 10% a year ago, and we were glad to maintain that.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to say that we do have an awesome staff here in Haywood County, but we also have some very smart kids in this county too, because you can see what they're doing. So they're learning, and I'm very appreciative.
There you go.
Even with her, personal feelings about these charter schools, et cetera, it does show again that even kids are smart in this county. Even their Shiny Rock did pretty well too. I mean, we know we got good kids.
We got great kids here.
We got great staff and principals and families, like I say. So, ditto to wow.
Congratulations. Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Nolte, for that presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
I may have the next item.
Okay, very good.
Just very quickly, picked up some shirts at the cleaner, and the guy said, "What are you all doing when you're out?" And so just a real quick rundown. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but these are the conference quality sessions that we will have coming up on Tuesday. for all of our staff people. You'll notice a lot of the math pacing, if you'll remember the accreditation team talking about us needed to go ahead and do that. And for our high school and middle school folks, we've done that. Just scroll through there quickly, Brooke. Media sessions, Megatronics, speech, coaching conversations for legal matters for our athletic coaches, new fractions information, calculators, reading technical text, science, gizmo, world, global education sessions, sessions for band, HyperDocs. I think Dr. Garrett signed up for that one, working on her technology credits. Lost Boys, we do have, sometimes boys don't perform as well as girls do. We have a session on that. Sessions for our counselors on college. We have a world-class PE session coming in, PADEA sessions. I won't read the rest of those, but you'll be able to page through those. And then I would just encourage you, if you're available next Tuesday, and you just want to walk through, most of our sessions will be at Waynesville Middle, the K-8 sessions. Most of those will be there. K-5 sessions, and then most of our 6-12 sessions will be at Pisgah. I just want to share that with you.
Very good. Any questions, comments? Thank you, Dr. Nolte.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that I failed to mention during our announcements period, and I should have, is Scott Smith, our board member from Beaver Dam representative, did resign official September the 29th. This board has accepted that resignation. We have done a press release to the newspaper to let them know that that's what's happened. Just would like to say that I've asked Mr. Smith to come back to a board meeting. He was planning on coming tonight. We were going to honor him properly, but he was unable to come tonight because of work issues. He had to work tonight, and so he wasn't able to come, but he's promised me that he will come in November if he possibly can. If not, we'll do it in December. If not, we'll do it in January. And if not, we'll run him down, and I'm going to take a picture of me handing him his plaque because he served this board well. He attended our board meetings. He attended our work sessions. He was an excellent board member. Now, the board will be responsible for replacing Mr. Smith as soon as possible. What we've done, and I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, we'll take applications. The board will look over those applications and do interviews in a timely manner and proceed with the selection of the replacement for Mr. Smith. Of course, they'd have to be in that district to represent that district. And then that individual would then have to run for election or at the next regular election, so next November, to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Smith. That is my understanding that this process is the way it happens. And Mr. Smathers, am I pretty well correct? Okay. And I would just like to say that Mr. Smith, again, did an excellent job and was a good representative of the Beaver Dam community. He'll be missed on this board, and but we do look forward to the replacement process, and then we'll let the public voters decide who will be representing that district come November. And we'll get the where to send application to and all that to you in the media. But normally it would go to the central office to my attention, and then we'll go from there. And again, we're going to proceed in a timely manner, but no dead timeline as of yet, because we don't know what things are going to be on the agendas, et cetera, that we want to do the proper amount of time to make a good decision for this board. Ms. King, has anyone signed up to address the board? Okay, no one signed up. Board members, you've had an opportunity to look at the minutes from our September 12th closed and regular session minutes. At this time, I'd entertain a motion they be approved as presented. Ms. Barrett's made a motion that we approve them as presented. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Clark. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next on our agenda, we have Mr. Todd Trantham.
Chairman. Item number 11 on the agenda is a memorandum of agreement between us and Macon County Schools. We began this process in, I want to say, 2010. I think this is the third time I've come to this board with a proposal to continue this agreement. This is not unlike the last two. I think the only thing that's changed is just the financial numbers on it is pay has increased over the last few years. We share that position with five districts, 5 LEAs in West North Carolina, us, Macon, Jackson, Swain, and Cherokee. And so basically we get a day of engineering service out of a staff member from Macon that works technically for Macon County Schools for about the same price as what it would cost us to pay engineering services for just a couple of projects during the year. So several of us did away with hiring outside engineering firms and instead began doing that ourselves by working together. Like I said, about 2010. It's worked out to be a really good deal, but this is the memorandum of agreement that will continue this for the next 2 years.
Board members, at this time, we entertain a motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement as presented by Mr. Trantham. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jimmy Rogers has made the motion. Do I hear a second? Say with Ms. Barrett. Any questions or discussion on the motion?
I have a question, Mr. Trantham. I guess the question would be, does it seem like this position is being shared very well between everybody? Are we getting the same amount?
Absolutely. Yeah, we get a day of service. He's in our district physically 1 day a week, but we all know and work together, so everybody kind of knows if something were to happen and the network goes down on the day he's here in Jackson County, he may leave and spend the morning over there. But in return for that, at the same time, if we have a crisis here, he's going to be on site for us. A good example of that is, even though it's not his day to be with us, it's the staff development day that we're going to have. We coordinated that several months ago to make sure on his calendar he was planning on being with us that day, just so we've got a little bit extra help if we need it as we coordinate through that day, just to make sure things are smooth. So that's really a nice feature of that, is that these 5 districts really work well together to share that when we need to, knowing that my network may be up today, but tomorrow it may be down. And I may need extra help, and to know that person's going to turn and come here if he has to has been makes us feel a whole lot better about things.
So this is going into the 5th year? You said this is a second time?
This is the third time. We
Third
started in
time.
2010, so we've been in this. The first cycle was 3 years.
3 years, that's what I was
The
thinking.
second one was 2, and this one will be 2. We did the first one 3 because it was a grant through the Cherokee Preservation Foundation, and so they paid for the first year of the grant, and then in years 2 and 3, they tiered off their funding, and we began to have to take more of that on ourselves. After that, we chose to keep it and continue with the process because it worked so well.
Now, have they kept the same person, or
Yes,
have they
since
switched?
Since 2010, we have had the same employee.
Same employee, that Macon County, that's their employee, okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's been working great, so. As long as we're getting our share.
We're getting a much better deal than we would if we had to pay for this in the
Right.
private sector.
You'd be contracting piecemeal, and it'd cost you an arm and a leg. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other further discussion, comments? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Trantham. Mr. Shepherd, I believe you have a few policies we need to look at.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So for first read tonight, we have 4 policies, and a couple of them would be brand-new policies for us. And I especially wanted to highlight the 6305. Last week, we were directed to look at a policy concerning seatbelt use. So we looked at the possibility of changing one of our existing policies or adding a brand-new policy, and the School Boards Association attorney advised us maybe just as well off to just add it into our 6305. So you'll see that highlighted in red in that policy.
Yep.
Takes care of that. And you probably know, but I talked to Todd about this, and the reason being, if we accept the the money from EPI, we have to have it in there. So the way it's written takes care of that.
Sure does. I think it's well written.
So any questions on any of those those first four.
Those 4 policies, as per board policy, will be tabled until the next regular board meeting to allow for public input.
There is one other thing. On 4326, the random drug testing of students, it's a little bit subtle. You don't even see one of the changes until page 7 on that policy. We'd had a request to look at making a change from strictly being a physician that a student needs to go see to fulfill the requirement if they are tested positive. In the policy, a student has to go and be counseled. And in the policy existing, it is by a physician. And we've made the change to a licensed substance abuse professional. And that is someone who may or may not be a physician, but is highly trained and, really laser focused on, student drug abuse. So may get a better result from that, but we want to give ourselves that flexibility to use that for the students.
Very good. Second reading.
Okay, for second read, those are the 2 that we presented last time, student records
Okay.
and Title I comparability.
Okay, this time I entertain a motion they be approved as presented. Mr. Henson made, I'm sorry, Dr. Rogers made the motion. Who seconded it?
Second.
Mr. Jimmy Rogers. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Ms. Gardner.
Chairman Francis, members of the board, I'm here tonight to request approval to apply for lottery funding in the amount of $193,757.50. This is our 4th payment for the Pisgah High School edition out of 10 payments. Following this payment, we will owe $1,020,000 on that project. Mr. Jim Harley Francis had asked what the interest would be over the next 6 years. That interest will be $65,790. Our current lottery balance is $1,198,703. That does not reflect our first quarter lottery revenue for this year.
Okay. This time we entertain a motion we approve the loan application from lottery funds as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the loan application for the lottery.
Okay.
It's a good addition.
Mr. Francis made the motion. To hear a second.
I'll second it.
So, Mr. Clark, any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Gardner. Next, we have our Finance Chairman, Mr. Henson, for his report and another item I think he said.
First, the motion to approve our regular and monthly financial reports. Everything looked good.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Henson. Do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Barrett. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next up from the Finance Committee, a motion to approve increasing the half-time assistant principal at Clyde Elementary to a full-time for the remainder of the 2017-18 fiscal year, with the position being reevaluated next spring, the 2018-19 fiscal year. That's in the form of a motion.
Form of a motion is, okay, we have a motion and by Mr. Henson, second by Mr. Jimmy Rogers. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor?
So we're moving a half-time assistant principal to a full-time. That's what they're requesting?
Correct.
And I have asked Mr. Connard if anybody has any questions or for him. He's here.
So what's the total?
Mr. Connor, just to give us, can you address us on this? Just to let us understand.
You should have some paperwork also in front of you that was presented at the Finance Committee meeting. If not, let me know. I'll share mine. Sure. Had a chance to look at it. He's got one.
Dr. Rogers, you got?
Does anyone need additional?
I'm good. Got
think we're good.
Would you like me to go through the full presentation again?
Dr. Rogers?
Maybe just to highlight what you think's.
All right, members of the board, Dr. Garrett, Dr. Bill. First of all, I would like to talk about, we've had basically an increase in our II wing at Clyde Elementary. When I first got to Clyde Elementary in 2014, 2015, there was 24 students, intensive intervention students. Since that time, our numbers have grown. Also, our staff has grown in regards to that wing. We've gone from 24 to 41 students. So, and then in addition to that, we've had 7 additional employees on that wing. Currently, my assistant principal is a 50% assistant principal, and the other 50% is a Title I. Coming with that federal money, there's a lot of binding things that we have to pay attention to. She cannot serve as an administrator on 50% of her Title I time. So I guess my presentation from earlier, there's definitely a need in additional support for time and effort in regards to assistance in that wing. With that wing, there's several additional IEP meetings, several behavior plans, meeting with parents, and a lot of time and effort in regards to administration.
Anyone have any more questions for Mr. Carter?
There's a breakdown. That back page has a breakdown of the salary increase.
That's what I was doing. That was one question. Now, it says, let's see, we currently have enrollment of 515. Now, is that counting the early pre-kindergarten?
Preschool.
Yes, sir.
And how many students is in the pre-kindergarten right off the bat?
18.
18. So 400. And what was Lake Junaluska at?
Can't remember.
460.
I mean, we just went.
5 something.
460. 460.
And the total cost finance is 20,
For the rest of this year.
for the rest of this year, 27, because we'll do it as of right now.
And it's just for this year, and then it's going to be put back into the line item for
the
approval
budget.
next year.
Okay, so it will be put back in a line item, but right now, for the rest of this year is 27, 38. So. All right, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I have nothing else.
Good to go?
Yeah.
Well, just one thing, I thought you might explain to them that what I thought was important was if she was teaching, you couldn't actually pull her out, to intervene, or to help out. So that was one of the issues he was running into.
Title I.
The time schedule, correct?
Correct. With the federal money, it's hard to account. There's a time and effort from that end that we have to spend 50% of her time, which is 3.5 hours per day in regards to instruction with students.
I would just like to make, I guess I could do this after, but I guess I'll just do it now. One of the things now, this makes 4 that has come to us in the last 4 months, I believe. I mean, if we keep it going every month, somebody coming, we might need to just look into it now instead of just everybody coming to us every month, and let's figure out what we need and what we don't need. And just get done at one time instead of just coming each month, somebody new. Because, I mean, obviously, if we need it, we need it. And I'm assuming you as the superintendent, you feel strong that we need one down there. Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Conard. I was just asked to vote on something I didn't have any information on.
Okay.
Is the reason.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Carr.
And Title I money, then that'll be spread out amongst the other employees to help.
It could be dispersed in
Supervise those
different
children.
ways. There's several line items. My plan would probably be to increase tutors from that 5th grade spot again, or provide some technology support there to all the students.
That's why I figured I knew you'd do fine with it.
And one more comment, Angie, Ms. Gardner said that right now we won't have to take it out of fund balance to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah, with approval of the board, at this point, I would prefer not to appropriate fund balance. We've appropriated a little over $1 million, as the board is aware of. Once we have gaps in employment throughout the year. You know, I may be coming back in the spring and saying, oh, I need some more fund balance, but at this point, I'd really like to just try to shake the trees, so to so to speak, on the state side and see if we can get it paid for that way, if that's okay.
Shake it hard.
I will.
Sounds good. Any other questions, comments before we vote? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Carney, you got your half position. Very good. Anything else from finance, Mr. Henson?
No, sir.
Okay. Dr. Ann Garrett for our personnel.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for your information, you have 12 separation from employments, you have 10 employee status changes, you have 5 leave of absences. For your approval, you have 1 separation from employment, 13 employments, 19 employee status changes, 8 contracted services, 9 substitutes, 33 employee coaches, 9 non-employee coaches, 24 volunteer coach services.
Motion we approve, Mr. Chairman, is presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Rogers to approve the personnel as presented. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Francis. Any questions or discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Ann. Earlier this evening, we recessed out of our closed session, and so we're not going to adjourn the meeting. I don't foresee taking any action, but we will not adjourn the meeting until after we do closed session. We'll, at this time, we'll recess back into closed session. We are now at a recess. There being no further business to come before this board, meeting adjourned.